Hannah Lawson woke up to the sound of giggles coming from the kitchen. 6-year-old Leo was already up, probably making a mess with his breakfast cereal. She smiled, remembering the stormy night when she found him on her doorstep. Just a tiny baby wrapped in a thin blanket. "Mommy, look what I made," Leo called out as she entered the kitchen. Her heart melted seeing his bright smile, milk dripping down his chin. The kitchen counter was covered in sprinkled cereal, but she didn't mind. These were the moments that made everything worthwhile. "That's wonderful, sweetie. Now let's clean up before school," she said, grabbing a washcloth. Hannah wasn't rich. Her job as a kindergarten teacher barely paid the bills, but she had given Leo all the love in the world. She had fought hard to adopt him, using her savings and working extra jobs to pay the lawyers. It hadn't been easy, but Leo was worth every sacrifice. The morning followed their usual routine. Hannah helped Leo get dressed in his favorite superhero t-shirt, packed his lunch, and drove him to school in her old Honda. She watched him run to join his friends, his Batman backpack bouncing with each step. Everything was perfect in their little world, until that afternoon when she opened her front door to find a man in an expensive suit standing there. "Miss Lawson," his voice was deep and commanding. "I'm Gabriel Donovan. We need to talk about Leo." Hannah felt her blood run cold. She knew this day might come, but she had prayed it never would. Gabriel Donovan was a name she had seen on business, magazines at the grocery store, the billionaire CEO who had built an empire from nothing. What she hadn't known was his connection to the baby she had found that rainy night. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. But Gabriel pulled out a folder filled with papers. 6 years ago, my wife, Rebecca, was 8 months pregnant when she disappeared. The police found her car crashed off a mountain road, but her body was never recovered. What they didn't tell me was that she had given birth before she died. His eyes were intense, filled with pain and determination. "Leo is my son." Hannah gripped the doorframe to stay standing. "That's impossible. Leo was abandoned. I found him. I raised him. I'm his mother." "DNA doesn't lie, Miss Lawson. I had my investigators looking for years, and they finally traced him to you." Gabriel's expression softened slightly. "I understand this is shocking, but that boy is all I have left of Rebecca. I've lost 6 years with my son. I won't lose any more." Hannah's mind raced. She thought about all the birthdays, the scraped knees she had kissed better, the nightmares she had soothed. Leo was her whole world. "You can't just walk in here and take him away. He doesn't know you. He'll be scared." "I have the best lawyers in the country," Gabriel said, "but I'd rather not drag this through the courts. It would only hurt Leo. We can work something out." "Work something out?" Hannah's voice cracked. "He's not a business deal, Mr. Donovan. He's a little boy who thinks I'm his mother." "You are his mother in many ways," Gabriel admitted. "That's why I'm here in person. I want to handle this right. Leo needs stability, not trauma. But he's my son, and I have rights." Hannah wanted to slam the door in his face, but she knew better. A man like Gabriel Donovan wouldn't give up. If she pushed him away, he would come back with lawyers and court orders. Leo would be caught in the middle of an ugly battle. "Leo will be home from school soon," she said, her teacher's instincts kicking in. "This isn't a conversation for him to walk in on. Come back tomorrow morning after I drop him off. We can talk then." Gabriel nodded, reaching into his jacket pocket. He handed her a business card with his private number. "Call me if you need anything before then, and Miss Lawson, thank you for taking care of my son when I couldn't." After he left, Hannah sat on the couch and cried. The past 6 years flashed through her mind. Leo's first steps, his first words, the way he called her mommy with such trust and love. She had always known there was a chance his biological parents might surface, but she had hoped they never would. Now a billionaire was claiming him, with resources she could never match. Gabriel could give Leo everything she couldn't: the best schools, expensive toys, a life of privilege. But could he give Leo the one thing he needed most? Could he love Leo the way she did? Hannah wiped her eyes when she heard Leo's school bus stopping outside. She had to be strong for him. Tonight would be like any other. Night, homework, dinner, bedtime stories. She would hold him extra tight, memorizing every detail of his face, the sound of his laugh, the way he smelled after his bath. Tomorrow would come soon enough, and with it, the fight of her life. Because Hannah Lawson might not be a billionaire, but she was a mother, and mothers didn't give up without a fight. Gabriel Donovan couldn't sleep that night. He paced his penthouse apartment, looking at the city lights below. For 6 years, he had searched for answers about Rebecca's death. The police had written it off as a tragic accident, a pregnant woman losing control on a rainy mountain road. But Gabriel had never believed it was that simple. Rebecca had been acting strange in the weeks before her disappearance. She kept saying someone was following her but wouldn't tell him who. He had hired extra security, but she still seemed scared. Then one night, she just vanished. The investigation had gone cold until 3 months ago, when his private detective found a lead. A baby boy had been dropped off at a house in a small town on the same night Rebecca's car was found. The timing couldn't be a coincidence. Now, looking at the photos on his desk, Gabriel saw Rebecca's eyes staring back at him from Leo's face, his son. The word felt strange in his mind. He had a child, a 6-year-old boy, who didn't even know he existed. His phone rang. It was his lawyer, James Mitchell. The background check on Hannah Lawson came back clean, James said. Single, never married, works as a kindergarten teacher. No criminal record, not even a parking ticket. She went through all the proper legal channels to adopt the baby. What about her finances? She's struggling, took out loans for the adoption, works summer school to make extra money. But Leo's well cared for. Regular doctor visits. Good. School, healthy home environment. Gabriel rubbed his temples. He had expected to find some dirt, something to make this easier. Instead, he had found a devoted mother who had given his son everything she could. We can still take her to court, James continued. With your resources and the DNA evidence, we'd win custody. And traumatize my son in the process? Gabriel sighed. No, there has to be another way. He thought about Hannah's face when he showed up at her door. The fear in her eyes, the protective way she talked about Leo. She wasn't what he had expected. In his mind, he had pictured someone who had stolen his child. Instead, he found a woman who had saved him. The next morning, Gabriel arrived at Hannah's house right after she dropped Leo at school. She was waiting for him, looking tired but determined. Before we start, she said, I want to show you something. She led him to Leo's room. The walls were covered with dinosaur posters and crayon drawings. A bookshelf held well-worn children's books. On the dresser were photos, Leo's first day of school, birthday parties, Halloween costumes. This is his life, Hannah said softly. This is what you're asking me to give up. Gabriel picked up a frame showing Leo laughing on a swing, Hannah pushing him. The joy in both their faces was undeniable. I'm not the villain you think I am. Miss Lawson, I don't want to destroy Leo's happiness, I just want to be part of it. And what happens when you get bored of playing daddy? When your business needs you more than he does? I've seen how men like you live, Mr. Donovan. Everything's disposable, replaceable. Her words stung because they hit close to home. Before Rebecca died, he had been that man, always working, thinking money could fix anything. Losing her had changed him. You're right about one thing, he said. I don't know how to be a father, but I want to learn. Leo deserves to know where he came from, to understand why his mother... Gabriel's voice caught. Hannah's expression softened slightly. What really happened to her? She asked. I wish I knew. Rebecca was... She was scared of something. Someone. But she wouldn't tell me what. I hired people to protect her, but she still disappeared. And now I can't help wondering if finding Leo might finally give me answers. Hannah sat down on Leo's bed, absently straightening his Superman comforter. The night I found him, there was a note. Just a few words. Keep him safe. They're watching. I gave it to the police, but they said it was probably just a teenage mother, scared to keep her baby. Gabriel's head snapped up. You never mentioned this in the adoption papers, because I was afraid they wouldn't let me keep him if they thought there was something suspicious about his abandonment. I knew he needed me. They looked at each other, two people connected by a child and a mystery neither fully understood. Hannah saw something change in Gabriel's eyes, a softening, a glimpse of vulnerability behind the powerful facade. "What if," he said slowly, "instead of fighting over Leo, we worked together to find out the truth about Rebecca, about why Leo was left with you that night?" Hannah studied him. The man who had seemed so threatening yesterday suddenly looked lost, haunted by the same questions that had kept her awake some nights. "And what about Leo? What do we tell him?" "The truth eventually, but carefully when he's ready. Until then," Gabriel hesitated, "maybe we could find a way to share him. Let me get to know my son without taking him away from the only mother he's ever known." It wasn't a perfect solution. There would be complications, arguments, moments of jealousy and doubt. But as Hannah looked around the room filled with memories, she realized it might be the only way forward that wouldn't break Leo's heart. "We'll need rules," she said firmly. "And you have to understand, Leo's needs come first, always." Gabriel nodded, relief washing over his face. "I agree. And Hannah, thank you for everything you've done for him." It was the first time he had used her first name. Something shifted between them, a tiny crack in the wall of mistrust. As they sat in Leo's room, surrounded by the evidence of a happy childhood, they began to talk, not as enemies, but as two people who loved the same little boy. The next few weeks brought changes to Leo's world, though he didn't quite understand why. A new friend started visiting, a tall man in nice suits who brought amazing toys and always listened to his stories about school. His mum called him Mr. Gabriel and said he was someone very special who wanted to get to know Leo better. Adichi Tale. First, Leo was shy around Gabriel, but that changed the day Gabriel brought a remote-control helicopter to the park. They spent hours flying it together, and Leo discovered that this fancy-dressed man could run and laugh just like other dads. When the helicopter got stuck in a tree, Gabriel didn't even mind climbing up to get it, getting his expensive suit all dirty. Hannah watched from a nearby bench, her heart a mix of emotions. Gabriel was trying so hard to connect with Leo, and it was working. The boy who usually took days to warm up to strangers was already showing Gabriel his favorite superhero moves. "Higher, Mr. Gabriel, make it go higher!" Leo shouted as the helicopter soared above them. But not everything was perfect. One evening, after Leo went to bed, Hannah found Gabriel in her kitchen, looking troubled. "My investigators found something," he said quietly. "About Rebecca's accident. There were brake marks on the road that didn't match her car. Someone might have run her off that mountain." Hannah felt a chill. "You think it wasn't an accident?" "Rebecca was trying to tell me something. Before she disappeared. She kept saying they're going to take everything. I thought she was just stressed about the pregnancy, but now, the note that came with Leo," Hannah whispered. "They're watching." "Gabriel, what if it's connected?" Before he could answer, they heard Leo crying upstairs. Hannah rushed to his room, Gabriel right behind her. Leo was sitting up in bed, tears streaming down his face. "Bad dream, sweetie?" Hannah sat on his bed, pulling him close. "The scary men were chasing us," Leo sobbed. "They wanted to take me away." Hannah and Gabriel exchanged worried looks. "Nobody's going to take you away," Hannah promised, stroking his hair. "You're safe." Gabriel sat on the other side of the bed. "You know what? When I was your age, I had bad dreams too. Want to know what helped me?" Leo nodded, his tears slowing. "My mom would make me hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. Think that might help? Can I have whipped cream too?" Leo asked hopefully. Soon they were all in the kitchen, Leo perched on a stool with his fancy hot chocolate, whipped cream on his nose. Hannah noticed how natural Gabriel looked, teaching Leo how to make a marshmallow tower. It wasn't what she had expected when the intimidating billionaire first showed up at her door. Later that night, after Leo was asleep again, Gabriel made some calls. He doubled the security detail watching Hannah's house, though he made sure they stayed invisible. He wasn't taking any chances with his son's safety. "We need to be careful," he told Hannah. "If someone really did target Rebecca because of Leo..." "Because of Leo? What do you mean?" Gabriel hesitated. "There's something I haven't told you. 2 weeks before Rebecca disappeared, she changed her will. She left everything, her shares in the company, her inheritance, in trust for our unborn child. A lot of people stood to lose millions if that baby was born." Hannah sank into a chair. "So when Leo was born..." He became heir to one of the largest fortunes in the country. If the wrong people knew he was alive, that's why. She left him with me, Hannah realized. A kindergarten teacher in a small town. Nobody would look for a billionaire's son here. Gabriel nodded grimly. Rebecca was trying to protect him. And now that I've found him, we might have put him in danger again, Hannah finished. She stood up, her teacher's practical nature taking over. Then we need a plan. We can't let Leo see that we're worried, but we have to keep him safe. I have resources, security teams, and I have 6 years of knowing every detail of Leo's life, his friends, his routines, who he trusts. We need both, Gabriel. We need to work together. He looked at her with new respect. This wasn't the same woman who had been ready to fight him for Leo weeks ago. Or maybe she was, just as fierce, just as protective. But now they were on the same side. Hannah, he said softly, I'm sorry I ever thought about taking him from you. Seeing you with him. You're exactly what he needs. And he needs you, too, she admitted. I see how his face lights up when you visit. He's always asking when Mr. Gabriel is coming back. They sat in comfortable silence, the kitchen still warm from making hot chocolate. Outside, unseen security guards patrolled the street. Upstairs, Leo slept peacefully, unaware of the forces gathering to protect him. You know, Gabriel said finally, for the first time since Rebecca died, I feel like I'm part of a family again. Hannah looked at him, really looked at him, not the billionaire in expensive suits, but the man who climbed trees to rescue toy helicopters and knew how to chase away nightmares with hot chocolate. Maybe that's what Leo's been trying to tell us all along, she said softly, that sometimes families come together in unexpected ways. As autumn turned the leaves golden, Gabriel became a regular fixture in their lives. He would show up for Leo's soccer games, sitting next to Hannah on the cold bleachers and cheering just as loud as any other parent. Sometimes he brought work with him, his laptop balanced on his knees as he typed between plays, but his eyes never missed when Leo had the ball. The other parents whispered about the handsome billionaire who kept visiting the kindergarten teacher and her son. Some thought they were dating. Hannah heard the gossip at PTA meetings and school picnics, but she didn't bother correcting them. The truth was too complicated to explain. One Saturday morning, Gabriel arrived early for their planned trip to the zoo. He found Hannah in the kitchen looking worried over a stack of bills. Everything okay? He asked. The house needs a new roof, she said, pushing the papers away. I'll figure something out. Gabriel reached for his checkbook, but Hannah stopped him. Don't, please, I need to handle this myself. You're so stubborn, he said, but there was admiration in his voice. At least let me help with Leo's college fund. Gabriel, he's my son too, and before you argue, this isn't about money. It's about me being a father. Their conversation was interrupted by Leo running downstairs in his favorite zoo shirt, the one with pandas on it. Ready. Can we see the lions first? The zoo was crowded, but Gabriel's security team kept a discreet distance, blending in with the other visitors. Leo didn't notice them as he dragged Hannah and Gabriel from exhibit to exhibit, full of endless questions about every animal they saw. At the penguin house, an elderly couple smiled at them. What a beautiful family, the woman said. Your son has your eyes, she told Gabriel, but he has his mother's smile. Neither Hannah nor Gabriel corrected her. Something about her words felt right, even if the truth was different. But their peaceful Saturday took a dark turn when Gabriel got a call from his head of security. 2 men had been caught taking photos of Leo from behind the zebra enclosure. When confronted, they ran. We need to leave. Now, Gabriel said quietly to Hannah. She understood immediately, kneeling down to Leo's level. Sweetie, how about we go? Get ice cream. But we haven't seen the giraffes yet. We'll come back another day, Gabriel promised. Right now there's a special ice cream place I know that makes sundaes as big as your head. They left through a service entrance, Gabriel's security team forming a protective circle. In the car, Leo happily devoured his promised ice cream, unaware of the tension between the adults. They're getting bolder, Gabriel said in a low voice. We need to consider moving you both somewhere safer. Leave? Hannah's heart clenched. This is Leo's home, his school, his friends. His safety comes first, I know that. But running away won't solve anything. These people, whoever they are, they found us once. They'll find us again. Gabriel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Then what do you suggest? We fight back, but smart. You have resources, I have local connections. Between us, we might be able to figure out who's behind this. That night, after Leo was asleep, they sat at Hannah's kitchen table with files spread out. Gabriel's investigators had compiled everything about Rebecca's last days. Phone records, credit card statements, security footage. Look at this, Hannah said, pointing to a report. 3 days before she disappeared, Rebecca visited a lawyer who specialized in corporate whistleblowing. Whistleblowing about what? Whatever she found out, it was big enough to get her killed. Hannah's voice cracked. Big enough to make her hide her baby. Gabriel stood up, pacing the kitchen. I was so focused on finding Leo, I never looked deeper into why Rebecca ran. I thought maybe she just didn't trust me to protect them. Hannah saw the pain in his face and did something she'd never done before. She hugged him. He stiffened for a moment, then relaxed into her embrace. She trusted you enough to name your son Leo, Hannah said softly. That was your father's name, wasn't it? Gabriel pulled back, surprised. How did you know? I looked you up after you first came here. You don't talk about him much. He died when I was young. Cancer. But he was a good man. A good father. Gabriel smiled sadly. Rebecca knew how much I missed him. She must have known even then that someday I'd find our son. Their faces were close, the kitchen quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. For a moment, Hannah thought he might kiss her. Part of her wanted him to. Instead, Gabriel stepped back, running a hand through his hair. We should get some sleep. Tomorrow we need to start digging into Rebecca's old files, see what she might have discovered. But as he turned to leave, Leo's voice came from the stairs. Mommy, Mr. Gabriel, are you having a sleepover? They found him sitting on the steps in his Superman pajamas, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. What are you doing up, buddy? Gabriel asked. I had another bad dream, about the scary men. Hannah and Gabriel exchanged worried looks. Were Leo's nightmares just dreams, or was he somehow sensing the danger around him? How about we all have some hot chocolate? Hannah suggested. Just this once. As they sat around the kitchen table, Leo between them with his chocolate mustache, they looked like any normal family. But normal families didn't have security teams outside their house or mysterious enemies taking photos at the zoo. Still, watching Leo teach Gabriel how to dunk cookies in hot chocolate, Hannah realized something important. Whatever happened, next they would face it together. Not just for Leo's sake anymore, but because somewhere along the way they had become something more than just two people sharing custody of a child. They had become a family. An unexpected, complicated, slightly scary family, but a family nonetheless. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday. Gabriel was at his office when his private investigator called with news about Rebecca's last days. She had been investigating financial irregularities in his company's charitable foundation, millions of dollars disappearing into offshore accounts. Gabriel immediately called, Hannah, I need to show you something. Can you get a sitter for Leo? An hour later, Hannah arrived at his penthouse office. She had never seen where he worked before. The view of the city was breathtaking, but she barely noticed it as Gabriel spread documents across his desk. These are the foundation's records from 6 years ago, he explained. Rebecca found a pattern. Money meant for children's hospitals, cancer research, all of it being diverted. And look who was in charge of the foundation then. Hannah gasped at the familiar name. James Mitchell, your lawyer? The same man who's been helping me search for Leo. Gabriel's voice was tight with anger. He knew all along. He probably helped whoever was after Rebecca track her down. We need proof, Hannah said. Something concrete we can take to the authorities. Rebecca had proof. She must have hidden it somewhere before. He couldn't finish the sentence. Hannah touched his arm gently. The note she left with Leo. They're watching. She knew they would come after her, so she hid the evidence and got Leo to safety first. But where would she hide it? Think, Gabriel. Where did Rebecca feel safest? Where would she go if she needed to protect something precious? Gabriel's eyes widened. The lake house, we spent our honeymoon there. She loved that place, said it was the only spot in the world where she could really think. They were interrupted by Gabriel's phone ringing. It was the school. Leo had a fever and needed to be picked up. Hannah rushed to get him while Gabriel started making arrangements to visit the lake house. That evening, Leo lay on the couch with his favorite blanket, cartoons playing on TV. His fever wasn't serious, just a normal childhood bug, but he was clingy and wanted both Hannah and Gabriel near him. "Tell me a story," Leo asked sleepily. "About when I was a baby." Hannah and Gabriel exchanged looks. They hadn't told him the truth yet, waiting for the right time. But maybe that time was coming sooner than they thought. "Well," Hannah started, "one very special night, when it was raining just like tonight, someone brought you to my door. And from the moment I held you, I knew you were meant to be my little boy." "Like how Spider-Man found his new family?" Leo asked, referring to his favorite superhero. "Something like that," Gabriel said softly. "And you know what? You had another mommy too before. She loved you so much that she made sure you would be safe and happy." "Where is she now?" "She had to go away," Hannah said, her heart aching. "But she gave us the most wonderful gift. She gave us you." Leo thought about this, his fever-bright eyes serious. "Is that why Mr. Gabriel comes to see us? Because he knew my other mommy?" "Yes, sweetheart, and because—" Hannah looked at Gabriel, who nodded slightly. "Because he's your daddy." Leo sat up, suddenly more alert. "Really? I have a daddy?" "Really?" Gabriel said, his voice rough with emotion. "I'm sorry I couldn't be here sooner, buddy. But I'm here now, and I love you very much." Leo launched himself at Gabriel, wrapping his arms around his neck. "Can I call you Daddy instead of Mr. Gabriel?" "I'd like that more than anything." Hannah wiped tears from her eyes, watching them together. It wasn't how she had planned to tell Leo, but somehow this quiet moment, all of them together on her old couch with cartoons playing in the background, felt perfect. Later, after Leo had fallen asleep between them, Gabriel spoke softly. "I'll go to the lake house tomorrow. We need to find what Rebecca hid." "I'm coming with you," Hannah said firmly. "We're in this together now. It could be dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. But Leo needs both his parents, and we need answers." Gabriel looked at her, really looked at her, and Hannah felt her heart skip. The way he was watching her, but it was more than gratitude, more than friendship. "Hannah," he started, but she shook her head. "Not now. Let's focus on keeping our son safe first. The rest can wait." But as she said it, she knew they were both thinking the same thing. Something was growing between them, something neither had expected, and like everything else in their complicated lives, it would have to be handled carefully for Leo's sake. The lake house stood silent and untouched, just as Rebecca had left it 6 years ago. Gabriel used his old key, and the door creaked open. Everything was covered in dust sheets, the furniture, the paintings, even the grand piano Rebecca had loved so much. Hannah walked through the rooms, trying to see them through Rebecca's eyes. Where would a frightened pregnant woman hide something important, something she needed to keep safe until the right time? She spent a lot of time in the library, Gabriel said, leading Hannah to a book-lined room overlooking the lake. She said, it was the best place to think. They searched for hours, checking behind books, under floorboards, inside old volumes. Nothing. Hannah was about to suggest they take a break when she noticed something odd about the piano in the next room. "Gabriel," she called, "help me with this dust sheet." The piano was a beautiful antique, its wood still gleaming under years of dust. Hannah ran her fingers over the keys, remembering how Leo loved to bang on her old keyboard at home. Rebecca took lessons her whole life, Gabriel said softly. She would play for hours when she was upset, said the music helped her think. Hannah pressed a key. No sound came out. She tried another, then another. The piano was silent. "That's strange," Gabriel said. "She always kept it perfectly tuned." They lifted the lid. Instead of strings and hammers, they found stacks of papers and a small USB drive carefully wrapped in plastic. She turned the piano into a safe, Hannah whispered. Somewhere nobody would think to look. Gabriel's hands shook as he picked up the USB drive. "We need to get these somewhere secure. Mitchell probably has people watching this place." As if on cue, they heard cars pulling up outside. Hannah peeked through the curtains. 3 black SUVs, men in suits getting out. Back door. Now. Gabriel grabbed the evidence and Hannah's hand, pulling her through the house. They made it to the garage where his car was parked, but the SUVs were already blocking the driveway. What now? Hannah's heart was racing. Gabriel looked around frantically, then spotted something under a tarp. Rebecca's old boat. Still has the keys in it. They ran to the dock, hearing shouts behind them. The small speedboat roared to life just as the first men reached the waterfront. Bullets hit the water around them as Gabriel steered them into the open lake. "Stay down," he yelled over the engine noise. Hannah crouched in the bottom of the boat, clutching the precious documents to her chest. Gabriel's phone rang, the secure line he used for emergencies. It was his head of security. "Sir, we've got your location. Police boats are on the way. Just keep moving." They zigzagged across the lake, the black SUVs following along the shore road. Hannah could see more vehicles joining the pursuit. "Who are they?" she shouted. "Mitchell's cleanup crew. He must have figured out we were getting close." Gabriel's jaw was tight as he pushed the boat to its limits. Hannah's phone buzzed, a text from Leo's babysitter. Her blood ran cold as she read it. "Gabriel, they're at my house." "What?" "Someone tried to break in. The security team stopped them, but Leo's scared. We need to get back." Gabriel made a sharp turn, heading for the marina on the far side of the lake where his security team would be waiting. "They're trying to split us up, going after Leo to distract us from the evidence." Hannah felt rage build inside her. These people had killed Rebecca, forced her to abandon her baby, and now they were threatening Leo again. "We need to end this. Today." They reached the marina just as police boats appeared on the horizon. Gabriel's security team was waiting with cars ready. Within minutes, they were racing back to Hannah's house, the evidence secure in a locked briefcase. "Call the FBI," Gabriel told his head of security. "Tell them we have proof of embezzlement, conspiracy, and murder. Send agents to my office too. Mitchell will try to destroy anything left there." Hannah's house was surrounded by police cars when they arrived. Leo ran out to meet them, throwing himself into Hannah's arms. "The bad men tried to come in," he sobbed. "But..." The police stopped them. "Everything's okay now, baby." Hannah held him tight, feeling Gabriel's arms wrap around them both. "The bad men won't bother us anymore." Inside, FBI agents were already taking statements from the security team who had stopped the break-in. Gabriel handed over the evidence from the lake house. "Mrs. Donovan was thorough," the lead agent said, looking through the papers. "Bank records, emails, offshore accounts. She documented everything. She knew they'd come after her," Gabriel said quietly. "She died protecting our son and protecting the truth." Hannah sat on the couch with Leo curled in her lap, listening, as Gabriel explained everything to the agents. How Rebecca had discovered the charity fraud, how Mitchell and his conspirators had arranged her accident when she threatened to expose them. How they had spent 6 years stealing millions meant for sick children. "The money's been found," an agent announced, hanging up his phone. "Most of it anyway, already working on returning it to the charities." Leo had fallen asleep, exhausted by the day's excitement. As Hannah carried him up to bed, she heard Gabriel on the phone with his board of directors, explaining why his longtime lawyer was being led away in handcuffs. When she came back downstairs, the house was quiet except for a few remaining agents. Gabriel stood by the window watching Mitchell being driven away. "It's really over," Hannah said softly. Gabriel turned to her, his eyes full of emotion. "Rebecca can rest now, and Leo's finally safe." In the days that followed, their lives slowly returned to normal, but with changes. Gabriel's company made headlines as the charity fraud scandal broke. He spent long hours working with investigators, making sure every stolen dollar was traced and returned. But he never missed dinner with Leo and Hannah. Leo adjusted to his new reality with the resilience of childhood. He proudly told his teachers that Mr. Gabriel was actually his daddy, and drew family pictures with 3 people instead of 2. At night, he would ask for stories about his angel mommy, who had loved him so much she became a star in heaven. Hannah found herself falling into a new routine. Her small house often filled with Gabriel's security team, his business associates, and FBI agents coming and going. But somehow it still felt like home, maybe even more than before. One evening, while Leo was engrossed in his favorite cartoon show, Gabriel brought up something they had been avoiding. The board wants me to move back to the main office in New Way, York, he said quietly. The company needs stabilizing after everything that happened. Hannah felt her heart sink. She had known this peaceful time couldn't last forever. When do you leave? That depends on you. He took her hand. Both of you. What do you mean? Come with me. There are excellent schools in New York. Leo would have every opportunity. And you could teach at any private school you wanted. Or not teach at all, just be Leo's mum. Whatever you choose. Hannah pulled her hand away. Gabriel, I can't just uproot Leo's life. This is his home. His friends are here. He's already lost one mother. I can't bear the thought of being separated from him again. Gabriel ran a hand through his hair in frustration. And honestly, I can't bear the thought of being separated from you either. Hannah's breath caught. They had been dancing around this for weeks. The lingering looks, the casual touches, the way they gravitated toward each other even in crowded rooms. Gabriel, I know the timing is terrible, he continued, with everything that's happened with Rebecca. But Hannah, somewhere between fighting over Leo and fighting for him, I fell in love with you. Before she could respond, Leo's voice came from the doorway. Are we moving? They turned to find him watching them, his small face serious. Hannah knelt down to his level. We're just talking about it, sweetie. Nothing's decided. But Daddy lives in New York, Leo said matter-of-factly. And you love him and he loves you, I heard him say it. Out of the mouths of babes, Hannah. Thought? Leave it to a 6-year-old to strip away all the complications adults created. It's not that simple, baby. Why not? Leo asked. We could live in a big house and I could see Daddy every day. And you wouldn't be sad anymore when he goes away. Hannah looked up at Gabriel, who was watching them both with such hope in his eyes. She thought about her little house, her job at the local school, the life she had built here. But then she thought about the past few months, how complete their little family felt, how right it was when they were all together. What about your friends? She asked Leo. Would you miss them? Leo shrugged. Tommy moved away last year and he got a new best friend. I can too, and I'll have you and Daddy. Gabriel knelt down beside them. We don't have to decide right now. We can take our time, do what's best for everyone. But Hannah was already seeing the future unfold. Leo growing up with both his parents, learning about the mother who had sacrificed everything to protect him, building a life that honored Rebecca's memory while creating something new and precious. Yes, she said softly. Yes, what? Gabriel asked. Yes to New York, yes to us, yes to everything. Gabriel's face lit up with joy, but he contained himself. Are you sure? I don't want you to feel pressured. I'm sure, but I have conditions. She held up her hand when he tried to speak. I want to keep teaching, maybe not right away, but eventually. And I want us to spend summers here in this house. Leo needs to remember where he came from. Done, Gabriel said immediately. Anything else? Hannah smiled. Yes, you need to kiss me now because our son is watching and he needs to see that happy endings are real. Gabriel laughed and pulled her close. When their lips met, it felt like coming home. Leo made gagging noises and covered his eyes, but he was grinning. Later that night, after Leo was asleep, Hannah and Gabriel sat on the porch swing looking at the stars. The same stars that had shone down on this house the night Rebecca had left her baby here, trusting a stranger to give him the love he deserved. She would be happy, you know, Gabriel said softly, seeing Leo so loved, so protected. I wish I had known her, Hannah replied. I wish I could thank her. You thank her every day by being the mother she wanted for our son. Gabriel squeezed her hand. And now you're giving him something else she would have wanted, a family. Above them, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Hannah thought about Rebecca, about the choices she had made in her final days, how one act of desperate love had set in motion a story none of them could have predicted. Make a wish, Gabriel whispered, but Hannah just smiled. She already had everything she could wish for, a son who filled her life with joy, a man who loved them both, and a future bright with promise. Some wishes, she realized, came true even before you made them. The move to New York happened gradually. First came the weekend visits to look at houses, with Leo excitedly running through each one, picking out his future room. Hannah insisted on finding something that felt like a home, not just a showpiece. They finally settled on a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, close enough to Gabriel's office but far from the cold glass towers of Manhattan. Hannah supervised the renovation, making sure Leo's room had the same dinosaur wallpaper he loved and that the kitchen was warm and welcoming, like their old one. Gabriel watched in amazement as she transformed the formal dining room into a cozy family space, complete with a homework area for Leo. "You don't mind that I'm changing everything?" she asked one day, surrounded by paint samples. "Mind? Hannah, you're making it perfect. This place never felt like home before, now it does." The press had a field day when news of their relationship broke. "Billionaire finds love with son's adoptive mother," screamed the headlines. Paparazzi followed them everywhere, desperate for photos of the unconventional family. Leo found it all very exciting. "Look, Mommy, we're in the newspaper again," but not everyone was as accepting. At a charity gala, Hannah's first major society event, she overheard whispers. "Gold digger," someone muttered. "Probably planned it all along." Gabriel found her hiding in the coat check, trying not to cry. "Hey, what's wrong? Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this world." "This world?" Gabriel laughed. "Hannah, you're the only real thing in it. Those people in there, they've spent their whole lives pretending. But you loved our son when he was just an abandoned baby. You fought for him without knowing who he was. You're worth more than that entire room put together." He pulled her onto the dance floor, ignoring the stares and whispers. "Let them talk. We know the truth." At home, their routine settled into something beautiful. Mornings were chaos, getting Leo ready for his new school, Gabriel catching up on international calls, Hannah organizing their day. But evenings were sacred family time. No business calls, no social obligations. Just the three of them having dinner together, helping with homework, watching movies. Leo thrived in his new school, making friends quickly. His teachers praised his kindness and creativity. "He has such a big heart," they told Hannah, always helping other children. One day, Leo came home excited about a class project. "We have to make a family tree. Can I put all my mommies on it?" Hannah and Gabriel exchanged looks. They had always been honest with Leo about Rebecca, keeping her memory alive through stories and photos. But this was the first time he had wanted to share it publicly. "Of course you can, buddy," Gabriel said. "Your angel mommy would be proud to be on your family tree." Leo worked on his project for days, carefully drawing each family member. At the top he put 3 smiling faces: Mommy Hannah, Daddy, and Angel Mommy Rebecca. When he presented it to his class, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. That night, Hannah found Gabriel in his study looking at an old photo of Rebecca. "She would have loved him so much," he said softly. "She did love him. Everything she did was to protect him." Hannah wrapped her arms around him. "And she gave us both an amazing gift. She trusted me to love him, and she made sure you would find him when it was safe." Gabriel turned to face her. "You know, I've been thinking. The foundation, the real one, not Mitchell's fraud, needs a new director. Someone with a teacher's heart and a mother's instincts. Someone who understands what children really need." Hannah's eyes widened. "Me? But I don't know anything about running a foundation." "You know everything that matters. The rest is just paperwork." He pulled out a folder. "The board already approved. You'd be helping children like Leo. Ones who need a chance, need someone to fight for them." Hannah thought about that rainy night 6 years ago, opening her door to find a baby who needed her. How that one moment had changed everything. "Yes," she said, "I'll do it." Later, tucking Leo into bed, they told him the news. His face lit up with excitement. "Does this mean you'll help other kids find their families like how you found me?" "Something like that, sweetheart," Hannah smiled. "We'll help lots of children." "Good," Leo said sleepily. "Because everybody needs a mommy and daddy who love them, even if they get them in a funny way like we did." Gabriel squeezed Hannah's hand as they watched their son drift off to sleep. Outside their brownstone, New York City buzzed with its usual energy. Inside, their little family had found its perfect balance. "You know what I was thinking," Gabriel said as they headed downstairs. "What's that? Maybe we should make it official, all of it. Hannah's heart skipped. Are you asking what I think you're asking? Depends. Are you going to say what I think you're going to say? But before she could answer, they heard Leo's voice from upstairs. She's going to say yes. Can I be the ring bearer? They burst out laughing. Trust their son to steal even this moment. Well, Gabriel grinned. I guess I better go ring shopping tomorrow. Hannah pulled him close. I guess you better. The wedding was nothing like the society event Gabriel had once planned with Olivia. Hannah wanted something intimate and meaningful, just family and close friends. They chose to have it in the garden of their old house where their story had begun. Leo took his ring-bearer duties very seriously, practicing his walk down the aisle for weeks. He insisted on wearing a miniature version of Gabriel's tuxedo right down to the blue bow tie. The morning of the wedding, Hannah stood in her old bedroom, looking in the mirror. Her dress was simple and elegant, nothing like the elaborate gowns she'd seen at society functions. Her mother helped with her veil, tears in her eyes. I never thought finding a baby on your doorstep would lead to this, she said, hugging Hannah. Best thing that ever happened to me, Hannah replied. Both times, getting Leo and getting Gabriel. The ceremony was perfect in its simplicity. Leo walked down the aisle so carefully, holding the rings on a little pillow. When he reached the front, he gave Hannah an extra big hug before taking his place next to Gabriel. Gabriel's eyes were wet when he saw Hannah walking toward him. His vows made everyone cry. 6 years ago, I lost everything I thought mattered. But fate and Rebecca led our son to the one person who could love him as much as she would have. Hannah, you didn't just save Leo. You saved me. You showed me what real love looks like. It looks like bedtime stories and skinned knees and family dinners. It looks like you. Hannah's voice shook as she said her own vows. When I found Leo, I thought I was complete. I had all the love I needed. Then you came into our lives and I realized our family wasn't finished yet. You didn't just give Leo his father. You gave him the gift of knowing how much his mother loved him. You gave me a partner in this amazing journey, and you gave us both a home in your heart. Leo insisted on adding his own vows, which he had written himself. I promised to clean my room and eat my vegetables, and love both my mummies and my daddy forever and ever. The reception was held in the backyard, with twinkling lights in the trees and children running everywhere. Instead of a fancy wedding cake, they had Leo's favorite, chocolate chip cookies and ice cream. Hannah danced with Gabriel under the stars, thinking about how far they had come. From that first confrontation at her door to this moment, every step had brought them closer together. What are you thinking about? Gabriel asked, holding her close. About Rebecca. About how she must have felt that night, leaving Leo here. Do you think she knew that somehow this would be how it all turned out? I think she hoped. She chose you for a reason, Hannah. She knew what kind of mother you would be. Later, as the party wound down, they found Leo asleep in a chair, cookie crumbs on his little tuxedo. Gabriel picked him up gently. Ready to go home, Mrs. Donovan? Hannah smiled. We are home, all of us. The next morning, they surprised Leo with adoption papers. Gabriel was legally adopting him as his father, making official what they all already knew in their hearts. But I thought I was already your son, Leo said, confused. You are, buddy. This just makes it official on paper, like how Mommy and Daddy got married yesterday. Does this mean I get 2 birthdays? Leo asked hopefully. They laughed, pulling him into a family hug. Through the window, sunlight streamed in, catching the new rings on Hannah and Gabriel's fingers, making them sparkle. On the mantel, they had placed a special photo, Rebecca on her wedding day, young and beautiful, full of dreams for the future. Next to it was a new family portrait, Hannah, Gabriel and Leo, all smiling, all connected by love and choice and fate. The foundation Hannah now ran was doing amazing work, helping children find homes and families who would love them. Every success story reminded her of that rainy night when her own miracle had arrived. Life wasn't perfect. There were still society whispers, business challenges, and the normal ups and downs of family life. But they faced everything together, their bond stronger for having been tested by fire. And every night when they tucked Leo into bed, they told him the story of 3 people who loved him, one who gave him life and saved him, one who found Him and raised him, and one who searched until he found his way home. It wasn't a typical fairy tale, but then again, the best love stories rarely are. 5 years passed, bringing changes and blessings. The brownstone was full of life and laughter, especially after the arrival of Leo's baby sister, Rebecca Grace. Hannah had worried about having another child, afraid it might make Leo feel less special. But from the moment he saw his sister, Leo appointed himself her dedicated protector. "She looks just like Angel." "Mommy," he said, studying the baby's photos next to Rebecca's old pictures. She did have Rebecca's eyes, the same ones Leo had inherited. The foundation thrived under Hannah's leadership. She had a special program for helping single parents adopt, remembering her own struggles. Gabriel's company recovered from the scandal, stronger and more transparent than ever. They still spent summers at the old house, where Leo taught his sister to play in the same garden where he had once been found. Hannah kept the porch swing, where she used to rock him to sleep, though now it was where she and Gabriel sat in the evenings watching their children play. One summer evening, when Leo was 11, he asked about the night Rebecca left him. "Were you scared when you found me?" Hannah pulled him close. Though he was getting tall, he still fit perfectly in her arms. "Not scared. Surprised, yes. But the moment I held you, I knew you were meant to be mine. Even though you didn't know." "About Daddy, then. That's what makes it so special," Gabriel said, joining them. "Your angel mommy knew exactly who you needed. A mother who would love you no matter what, and who would help me find you when the time was right." Little Rebecca toddled over, demanding to be part of the family huddle. Leo scooped her up, so gentle with his sister. "You know what I think," Leo said. "I think Angel Mommy can see us, and I think she's happy." Hannah looked at her family, her brave, kind son who had brought them all together, her beautiful daughter named for the woman who had started their story, and the man who had turned from adversary to soulmate. She thought about Rebecca, about mothers and love and sacrifice. "I think you're right," she said softly. "I think she's very happy." That night, after the children were asleep, Hannah found Gabriel in his study. He was looking at an old photo album, smiling at pictures of Leo growing up. "Remember when you first showed up at my door?" Hannah asked, sitting beside him. "I was so afraid you'd take him away. And now look at us." Gabriel pulled her close. "I know I've been thinking about what Leo said about Rebecca seeing us. What about it? I believe she did know. Somehow she knew you were the perfect mother for our son. And she knew I would find my way to both of you." Hannah touched a photo of Rebecca. "She gave us such an amazing gift." "She gave us 2 gifts," Gabriel corrected. "She gave us Leo, and she gave us each other." Outside, a summer storm was brewing, just like the night that had changed their lives forever. But this time there was no fear, no uncertainty, just a family, safe and together, bound by love that had grown from loss and hope and trust. In Leo's room, a special frame held 3 photos: Rebecca on her wedding day, Hannah finding baby Leo, and their whole family at the beach last summer. Under it, Leo had written in his careful handwriting, "My family story," because that's what it was. A story of 2 mothers who loved one little boy more than life itself. A story of a father who searched until he found his son, and found his heart in the process. A story of a woman who opened her door one rainy night and found everything she never knew she was looking for. It wasn't the kind of story you read in fairy tales. It was better. It was real. And somewhere, watching over them all, an angel mother smiled, knowing her son had found exactly the family she had dreamed of for him. The end.